Oh, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm teacher and virtues facilitator at the Charles J. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Cheshire, Labrador. Hope everybody is staying safe. We're in level 2, and that means a lot of things are reopening, and I hope we don't start getting the kinds of things that are happening in the United States and Ontario. We want to stay virus free, so fingers crossed, I guess, and say a prayer. So, what I wanted to look at this morning then in the Family Virtues Guide is, what if your child does something really terrible? Perhaps the most difficult time to stay within the education model without sliding into shaming children is when they take us by surprise by doing something really terrible or unacceptable, such as stealing, destroying property, lying, intimidating or hurting another child in a cruel way. It becomes a shock to our system. So what you find out is like you want to lash out, Almost all children do these things. Not all, almost, okay? No matter how much guidance or love they receive from us. They get involved with other people, they have other friends that we need to be aware of as well, But when these things happen, our immediate natural response is to be shocked and ashamed. We wonder, where have I gone wrong bringing up this horrible child? The key to handling these situations effectively is to use the virtue of detachment, to stop ourselves from being overwhelmed or overly surprised, and instead focusing on how to engage a child's conscience, sense of honor, justice, love, etc. Because these virtues are in there, okay? They're in the child. But sometimes it takes masterful mentorship to bring them to the fore. We really got to work at it. That's why it's so important to work with the virtues when children are really young, and it eventually becomes a daily habit, When a child does something really terrible, what is a parent to do? This is not the time to analyze why the child did it. Were you angry at your sister when you picked up that rock? That merely lets them off the hook. It's no time to explode in surprise. How dare you? What's wrong with you? How could you? So when you say, were you angry at your sister? All you got to say is, yeah. And it kind of lets them off the hook then. Oh, you threw the rock because you were angry. But that's still not acceptable, is it? So such vague expressions of horror do nothing to build conscience. We end up feeling guilty and may be tempted to placate the child later. And placate, of course, is to pacify, to make someone else less angry. So we may end up doing that later on. The following steps help to engage a child's conscience without shaming him or rescuing him, and without adding insult to injury. So here's some steps, okay? Stop the behavior. Take the rock out of the child's hand. Name a specific virtue. You could say, stop, this is dangerous. You're not being peaceful. Explain briefly how this is wrong. It's never okay to use weapons when you're angry. People get hurt. Immediately give a consequence. Go into the house right now and take a time out. Encourage the child to make reparation. Afterward, invite the child to talk about what happened and to make reparation. What happened? After listening, ask, how can you make up to your friend for forgetting to be peaceful? The healthy use of guilt allows the child to pay for the crime, explain his understanding of why he received the consequence, and make reparation. then it is essential to encourage him in future efforts to express anger peacefully. So it's always a work in progress, okay? And the child gets better and better and better as you continue to work with them. So as I said before, it's mentioned again here, so the Family Virtues Guide is being used in many prisons around the world, restoring hope in adults who have done something really terrible. So it's being used in prisons for that reason, and in families, and it is helping them to reclaim their virtues and reminding them that they are always more than the worst thing they've ever done, and that growth is never finished. You have to wonder, is there anything so bad that God wouldn't forgive me? I don't want to answer that one. Okay, so we mentioned, of course, when something terrible happens, we shouldn't just jump in and scream and shame the child and say mean things to the child, but we need to detach. And so that's the reason I selected the virtue for this morning, the virtue of detachment. Now, we may have done this one before, but this time it's actually in a context of if you have a child that has done something that's not very nice, okay? So we start off with our little quote here, the quote for the virtue of detachment. Perform all thy actions with mind concentrated on the divine, renouncing attachment and looking upon success and failure with an equal eye. Spirituality implies equanimity. That's Bhagavad Gita. That's Hinduism. Behold me standing before thy face. That's one from Baha'u'llah. So if you could picture, if you could see a manifestation of God, be it Jesus or, God himself, I suppose, standing before your face and watching your reaction and watching the way that you treat other people and your children in particular, would things change for you, right? So that's why it says, perform all thy actions with mind concentrated on the divine, okay? So what is detachment? Detachment is experiencing your feelings without allowing your feelings to control you. It is choosing how you will act in a situation rather than just reacting. Feelings like sadness, happiness, disappointment, joy, frustration, anger are natural. They're natural feelings. Everyone has them. Detachment is a way to use thinking and feeling together so that you don't let your feelings run away with you. And sometimes that's when children get hurt. Sometimes that's when we get ourselves in trouble, right? Detachment does not mean you pretend to feel differently than you do. You're not pretending to feel different. You still have the feelings. Some people think detachment is being cold or pretending not to care. But when they try it, they find it is a joyful experience. Feelings are wonderful when they belong to us, when we use them to do what we really choose to do. Detachment means to feel what you feel, but not have to act on the feeling, unless you want to. It's kind of like standing beside yourself and watching what you are feeling as well as feeling it. So it gives you the choice. You feel angry, you now have a choice. You're going to act on that anger, or are you going to stop and think? So why should we bother to practice the virtue of detachment? Detachment is very important for a spiritual being. It allows you to choose the way you're going to act no matter how you feel. It permits you to be kind to people you do not like, or do a very hard thing because it is the right thing to do. You get to choose. Detachment helps you to decide what to do about strong feelings like anger. You can decide to use your voice to tell someone how mad you are and why, rather than picking up the nearest object and slamming them with it. So you get to talk about your feelings in a peaceful way. Detachment can give you self-confidence. It is like going to a calm, peaceful place within your mind and looking at what is happening without getting swept away. Without detachment, you never know what you're going to do. It depends on how you feel. When you practice detachment a lot, it becomes easier to do, even when your emotions are very strong. Prayer and meditation can be a big help in learning detachment. We hear a lot about prayer. Well, meditation is something that's very popular in our society today. And, if you've been following our webpage, of course, not the webpage, the Facebook page for Charles J. Andrew Family Treatment Center, you would have noticed Candy posting some meditation on the site. Very, very good and very calming. And it's worth taking a look and listen to. Okay, some beautiful pictures there as well. Without detachment, you would stay away from all the things you don't like or which are hard to do, even if it is very important for you to do them. With detachment, you can choose to do something you like in moderation rather than eating too much or playing a game too much and neglecting other things you need to do. So how do you practice it? You can practice detachment whenever you have a feeling about something or someone. First, you recognize the feeling. How can you be detached if you do not know what you are detached from? So recognize the feeling. Stop and look at your feelings and thoughts. Ask yourself 2 questions. What am I feeling about this? What do I want to do? Now pay attention to what you want to do. Ask yourself, is it good for me? Will it help someone else? Is it right? Is it the best I can do? If the answer to these questions is no, if the answer to any of these questions is no, then choose to do something else instead. Okay? Look, choose, act. In all these circumstances, maintain your character. Practice detachment. So, signs of success. Congratulations, you are practicing detachment. When you take time out before doing something you will be sorry for. When you look at your feelings before deciding how to act. When you use thinking and feeling together. When you pray or meditate before taking action. When you choose to do what is right. Here's the affirmation. I am aware of my feelings and choose my actions with detachment. I do what is right for me. I choose to be my best self no matter what happens. So, practicing detachment, we're trying to bring out the best in our children. If they do something that's, really terrible, you still don't want to disown them. I mean, you want to teach them, right? You want to, they're teachable moments. When things happen, they're teachable moments. One child may do something and the parent might say, oh, well, big deal. That another child does the exact same thing and it's horrible, right? So it depends on how we're feeling. But please, we practice detachment. A couple of quotes here. You heard this one before, of course. Let go and let God. Alcoholics Anonymous. Let go and let God. You always have the choice to take all things evenly, to hold on to nothing, to receive each irritation as if you had only 15 minutes to live. Think about that one. If you only had 15 minutes to live, what are some of the things that you would let go of, right? Especially what irritations would you, let go? And that's from Tolbert McCarroll. Here's an anonymous one. When there is something wrong with everyone, there is something wrong with you. Think about that one seriously. If everybody around you, there's something wrong with everybody around you, then maybe you need to reevaluate. It may be you that there's something wrong with, right? Lawrence Welk says, life is like an orchestra. If a man wants to lead, he has to turn his back to the crowd. Yeah, I love that one too. If you want to lead, you have to turn your back to the crowd. Perfect. Do not look back in anger or forward in fear, but around in awareness. Be aware of your surroundings. James Thurber. Something that you can do, something to give some thought to. Make a list of things that annoy you. Set a goal to detach from each of these and think about what will help you to detach. So make a list of things that annoy you. It could be people too, but don't write the names down, right? List of things that annoy you, and set a goal to detach from each of these and think about what will help you to detach. What are some of the hardest times for people to be detached? Some of the hardest times to be detached. What happens if we don't practice detachment? And the last one. What would you change in your life and your behavior if you only had 1 week to live? What would you change in your life and your behavior if you only had 1 week to live? And we really don't know how long we have to live. So we stop and think. Stop and think. I have the power to detach myself from cravings and irritations, to be alive to what truly matters. It is my choice. We have the power to detach from cravings and irritations. We don't have to let them get to us, okay? So that takes practice. Practice, practice, practice. The virtue of detachment now. But I hope you're giving thought to practicing as many virtues as you can, right? Every time a problem or an issue comes up, say, what am I supposed to learn from this? What virtue is in this situation that's going to help me? Okay, that's the way you have to look at these things. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate that. And I hope it was meaningful for you. I'm back at the Charles J. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center on Monday. And as far as I know at the moment, I'll be live at 1 o'clock. But if that changes, then of course I'll put out a notice to make sure that you know. So if you want to tune in, then I'll give you that option then, okay? So until Monday, stay safe, practice your virtues, particularly the virtue of detachment, and I'll be talking with you again on Monday. And stay safe. Bye for now.